right, thank you for coming. We're going to go ahead and jump right in. Here are our objectives for this presentation today. Number one, after this training, you should understand implicit bias, understand how implicit bias affects interactions in our school, and I'll also give you a couple of strategies to combat bias as an educator. What is implicit bias? So, bias is a disproportionate feeling in favor of or against an idea, person, or group of people. Implicit bias, on the other hand, is bias that is subconscious and unbeknownst to the person who holds the bias, it affects their interactions, their speech, and how they interact with others. So I want to make it clear that everyone has implicit bias because we are people, we are human beings, and our experiences shape who we are. And by shaping who we are, it shapes how we interact, how we speak, how we act. It can be a beautiful thing, but sometimes when we're not careful about reflecting, our experiences can cause us to react in a way that could be detrimental to student success. And we'll talk a little bit about that. Let's back up in time a little bit and talk about the historical lens. And I want to start by saying racism and bias are not synonymous. Racism is a choice to hate a group of people. All right, bias is something that you gain from your experiences, and it can be implicit unbeknownst to you. As schools integrated in the 1950s and 60s, research shows that while we built diversified institutions of learning, we as a nation did not necessarily take time to address bias. So while people integrated, they came into those integrated situations still holding their bias. And that over time has affected how students, particularly students of color, also students in poverty and other demographics, are able to achieve. From a philosophical lens, I want to highlight this first point of controlled versus automatic information processing. This is a concept that became popular amongst philosophers in the 1970s. So, controlled. If someone tells me, wash my hands, and I decide, okay, I'm going to wash my hands. My grandmother told me to sing happy birthday 3 times when I wash my hands. I sing happy birthday purposely. I purposely controlled how I did that and executed what I was told, the information I received. On the other hand, if you're anything like me and you're just walking along and a slight breeze brushes up against your leg, you automatically think bug and slap your leg. Right? You didn't have time to think about, wait, maybe it's not a bug, maybe it's the wind. You felt that feeling. You thought, oh my God, it's a bug. I'm afraid of bugs crawling on me, and slapped your leg. And that's what sometimes happens in the classroom, and that's how it can be subconscious. A student exhibits a behavior or says something, and we have experiences or fears or what have you that make us react in a certain way, because in the classroom, a lot of times you have to react quickly, and sometimes it's not always the best reaction if it's rooted in our bias. So here are some ideas that are commonly seen in the classroom or heard around the school that are rooted in bias. Assuming that a family needs an interpreter. We have a high Hispanic population at our school, and a lot of those families have parents that don't speak English, but a lot of them have parents who do speak English and just happen to be from a Spanish-speaking country. So our bias may tell us, when I plan this parent conference, I'm going to have an interpreter in that room because I know that this student is Hispanic and their parents need an interpreter. We should take time to check with those parents first and see what their needs are before we make that assumption. All right, anytime that we are interpreting actions and words as disrespect from students without reflecting on that student, the situation and how they felt, that could be rooted in bias as well. And a lot of times when we take that time to reflect, we can de-escalate situations a lot better. So here are a couple of ways that we can combat bias in the classroom. Be intentional about identifying your bias and know your triggers, things that get under your skin, and work on that. Don't put on a discipline show. When you have to discipline a student, try to do that away from students as much as you can, because those times when you're heated and your emotions are elevated, your bias comes through very easily. Make time to talk to students individually and practice daily reflection. No one is perfect. Nobody gets it right all of the time, but if we reflect daily, those times when we don't get it right will be less and less because we'll be working on that each and every day. I want to leave you all with a couple of resources to help you continue this conversation. You'll be receiving an email from me about how to do that. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful day.